Great, thank you, David. Tonight, I'm going to go quickly over some things we're seeing in the U.S. economy. I'm going to reference what I refer to as the Bizarro World. I'm going to talk about three things I think is causing the Bizarro World, namely two-speed economy, deleveraging, and currency wars. And then I'm going to end with some ideas on how you navigate through this investment horizon with what I call the playbook. So let's start with the U.S. economy. You can see from this graph, this is showing job gains in the U.S. They averaged about 200,000 a month in 2013. Last year, you can see a significant rise up to an average of 260,000 a month, a very strong increase. In fact, in the fourth quarter, U.S. generated almost 1 million jobs. So very strong job growth in the U.S. last year. This translates into a lower unemployment rate. You can see the unemployment rate hit 10% during the Great Recession. It's moved down all the way back down to 5.5%. About 5 to 5.2% is considered full employment by the Federal Reserve right now, so we're getting almost to the level where if you go below, you should start generating inflation. Looking at another encouraging sign in the U.S. is consumer confidence. This is showing the University of Michigan Consumer Confidence Index. You can see over the last 40 years, it's averaged about 85. You can see how low it got during the recession. It's since increased right back over the average and is actually right now at a 10-year peak. So investor confidence is very strong. This is very important because consumer confidence leads to consumer spending, which is about 70% of the U.S. economy. And we saw this last year with retail sales in the U.S. up 4%. So another very positive sign of the U.S. economy. The other thing we keep an eye on is the housing market. Housing is, again, a very important component in the U.S. economy as it drives a lot of other areas. If you look at housing starts in the U.S., you can see they've averaged about 1.5 million over the last 30 and 40 years. You can see how low they got during the Great Recession. Typically, in past cycles, they got down to 1 million. We got down to half of that, down to about 500,000 housing starts a year, extremely low. They've rebounded, but not to the level of where they would normally expect in this recovery. So there's a lot of upside in housing starts. Now, one of the things that was a little bit discouraging last year is that we were expecting home sales to increase, and they disappointed a bit. You could see last year home sales were actually below what we saw the previous year. Now, one of the reasons for this is that first-time buyers at only 33% is a very low number, the fewest since 1987. What we find encouraging is in this next slide from Barron's, you can see a spike in household formation in the U.S., and this is what drives housing in the U.S. So hopefully with a better job market, people are leaving their parents' basements, they're forming households, and this is going to drive housing over the next couple of years. So we are still very encouraged that the housing market will continue to move up in the U.S. Now, put this all together and look at GDP. You can see in 2011 and 12, U.S. average growth of about 1.7%. Last couple of years, we've averaged 2.7%. So you can see it's moved up. Is this very strong growth? No, but it's still very encouraging. So it looks like, if you look at the numbers, the U.S. economy is recovering. Everything looks pretty normal, right? Well, not really. There are a number of things that we see that are the opposite of what we'd expect. And I refer to this as the Bizarro World. So rather than me explain what Bizarro World is, and poor Joey's going to have to do this in Mandarin, I'm going to play a clip, and I'm going to let Jerry Seinfeld explain to you what the Bizarro World is.